Alright, hit the button, so I'm making a video, apparently. Anyway, here's the Vloggerdome page, so I'm going to do the value subject, I guess. We'll do that again. So instead of doing the Drake equation, because I just did the future thing, and the future thing is sort of related to the Drake equation, so we won't bother with that for a little while anyway. We'll skip around a little bit. Can't hurt to do that anyway. Mix it up a little bit anyway. So there was some jerk who did a video, I don't know, a few days ago. Just one of these text and video format or whatever. So one of these people arguing that there's no such thing as anything called like a real value or an objective value or anything like that. It's all just make it up, you know, it just doesn't, theoretically, to these people's understanding, it's not like there's an undiscernible truth. There just isn't a truth when it comes to any value equation. So it would, in fact, in their opinion, be arguable, that it's reasonable to believe that if you had two choices, 6 million Jews tortured to death for 3 years, 6 million Jews eating chocolate ice cream for 3 years, that you'd have no obligation, no rational obligation to press one button or the other button. There's no logic, no reason, no hard, rational imperative that could be established saying that it is all probability points to the fact that it's good to hit the one button versus the other button. That's their idiocy. Obviously I can't prove beyond all phantasmagorical, nonsensical, made-up crap anything. But you can prove things beyond reasonable contention. And what I think can be proven beyond reasonable contention is that sentient organisms have a qualitative experience, and that the qualitative experience has value. That being in negative conscious states is negative. It's bad. It creates negative value. And until it's resolved by bringing them up to a comfortable state, a less harassed state, they spew negative as a fact. And I don't think you can rationally argue with that truth, that statement, that hypothesis of truth. I don't think you can contrive anything rational. I don't think you can make a rational statement. You can just make up gibberish or apply a context that doesn't exist. The context is, this is the simple truth of it. The thing is either uncomfortable or it's comfortable. Which do you choose? Nothing else built on top of it. Nobody gets to, fly the golden rainbow if you choose one or the other. There's just the choice. Comfortable, uncomfortable. And I don't think there's any rational argument that could be made to put something in the uncomfortable state. So yeah, you're an idiot. Because some jackass philosophers, decided because it can't be absolutely proven beyond all made up mush, beyond the making up of a god, okay, that means that somehow there is no value. It's just idiotic. Alright, so anyway, another guy has made the same kind of, well, I can only imply his argument. I don't know what his this Gary Edwards guy, so he's made this kind of poor video, actually. He's experimenting with a new microphone, and it's not too good. Too many voice sounds. Anyway, it doesn't. That's regardless. I mean, I'm glad that his video sucks, because I don't like the content of it either, the whole attitude of it. But he's sort of making this, again, somehow pointing out this God argument, that somehow there's an argument, a rational argument, that I don't think I don't think the majority of people who have faith in God give a shit about any of these philosophical argument froms. I don't think it has anything to do with their faith. But anyway, this basic argument that objective morality proves God or something. If you claim there to be objective morality, only a God could create it. And I don't think that makes any logical sense. I don't think there's any imperative there whatsoever. And but they use the counter argument that somehow if you do imply a objective morality or the existence of a truth regarding value, some engine that creates value, that you're somehow connected to supposing the existence of a God. And that's certainly not true either. So I don't know. His video was sloppy and you know, it wasn't very overt, his statement, whatever it was. He was implying something apparently, and he didn't imply it very clearly. So anyway, so what I wrote down here is what creates value? That's the question we're asking, right? What creates it? And so there's one group of people who are arguing an opinion creates it. Okay, I have a stupid opinion. I just make up something. It's convenient for me to steal what somebody else has, so I will make up a rationalization that says they're somehow bad, they jaywalked once, and so they should be punished, and so I'll take $1 million of their stuff. Or I'll rape their daughter. And, you know, whatever I feel like doing. Whatever punishment I feel is correct, because I can decide what the real crimes are here. I can just make up values. I can diminish the value of the welfare of their daughters. I can diminish their life value. I can diminish anything I want in any way I want to, because apparently there's no rational test that this has to survive. So yeah, it's just all opinion. And whatever culture says, if culture says you can beat your wife or burn your wife, it's okay. It's all culturally relative, and there's no harm, no foul, because it's all made up. It just doesn't make any. Sorry, that just is idiotic to me. We have this capacity to do logic, and these people are just throwing in the garbage. So I say, so again, the simple question is, what creates value? Well, I'm certainly going to say opinion. No, that doesn't create value. It has to have something to do with a function or an action. Something has to happen. It has to be a property of something. And I think the obvious answer is it's a property of sentience. If there's not something that can be harmed in a conscious way, experience conscious harm, not harm like, oh, I got a broken arm. Well, a broken arm, if you don't feel it, doesn't mean anything. But yeah, we know that through personal experience, and that's the only way you can really know it, right? You can't really explain the negative quality of sensation to somebody who's never had one. You know, I mean, it would be really difficult. They would just have to take your word for it. You couldn't really explain it to them. Couldn't explain what it is to feel. So here we feel. We know what it is. We know what it is to have horrific feelings, to taste awful things, to smell awful things, to feel sensations that are awful and repulsive and agonizingly uncomfortable. Repulsive. We know what repulsion feels like. We know what hostile, oppressive, suffocating. You can come up with lots of adjectives. We know what these feelings are, and it seems quite obvious that they are what generates value. That without the existence of a sentient in the universe, it really wouldn't matter what the universe does. The universe could do whatever the hell it wants. All I need to do is put one sentient in it. So if the universe was just all mechanical planets crashing into each other and just crap happening, well, as soon as I put one rabbit in a plastic bubble floating in that mix, all of a sudden the whirlpool, all of a sudden the crashing and the colliding means something. Because now it's going to impact the welfare of that sentient. And it's going to matter how it dies. You know, what happens to it. It's going to matter. If I kill you that fast, and I kill you slowly over a period of 10 years, you know, pulling a piece off at a time, there's a qualitative difference between those two things that can't be logically disputed. It can't be logically, there's no logical counter-argument that says there's a huge qualitative difference between those two events. Even though they both end up in death, one of them is substantially more negative because of the conscious experience endured. There's no rational argument that could defend it as being anything other than quite obvious. So, these people, these call themselves thinkers, call themselves intelligent, consider themselves intelligent, let's say, and yet they all say that it's completely irrational to do what I just did, to sit there and just evaluate the states of two different things and say, I can't make a rational argument. I can't conceive of one. I can't imagine one. I can't make up one. I really can't, without creating some external value, some projection of value. So without adding some other value to the equation, there's no way I could sit there and make a rational argument why somebody should be tortured for 10 years if the end is going to be exactly the same. No. It would be stupid. It would be a waste of suffering. And I would know that wasting suffering is bad. And this they'll call a religion or dogma or something they'll consider it made up. And I would argue that no, the only thing that's made up is their rejection of it. They're rejecting it through a mechanism that requires the creation of gods, the creation of absolute mush, some sort of bizarre, strangled, external circumstance that somehow would make it make sense that something would suffer 10 extra years. So this isn't complicated. So, yeah, value is not material. It's a phenomenon. It's a product just like consciousness. You can't literally put it in a bottle by itself. It is a function of a brain, of the arrangement. This is an illusion created inside of a brain, and it's a very real thing. Like a hologram or something else, it might not be the real thing, but it is itself a thing. And what's happening inside my brain to create this idea of sensation is a thing. It can't be denied by merely stating it's just an arrangement. It just happens when the wheels are rolling. Well, so what? The fact that it can only happen with the aid of time, with the function of changing circumstances to create this phenomenon, doesn't change the fact that it's happening. It's happening inside my brain. That's what my brain does. All those neurons, this is what it's generating. There's this impressive mirage. But it's not a mirage in the sense that it's a fake projection. It's an internal, real projection. Internally, it's real. Internally, it's happening. And it's, like I said, from my own testimony, it's as real as any other matter I interact with. It's realer. I know I'm more real than if I cut my hand off and put it on the table. My hand is no longer as real because it's now no longer connected to a consciousness. It's the consciousness that makes my hand significant. Disconnected from the consciousness, my hand loses significance. It doesn't gain significance. And like I said, I can't imagine the rational argument that could be made to say, well, let's just pretend it doesn't really happen. Consciousness happens. And its consequence, its property, is the production of this sentient qualitative experience, and that produces value in the universe. And that is the foundation for ought and should and must and the need to the creation of the math, the creation of a discernible value weight, and the existence of a product in terms of an interaction, and whether you have more of a value weight or less value weight depending on what your action was. That actions will produce a different value weighted product. More comfort, less comfort. So really, not that hard. I guess another way of saying it is we sense things, you know. We sense through vision, through hearing, touch, and we can also sense things through intelligence, through logic. That logic is a kind of lens. It lets you see things that exist far away or over the horizon or out of reach to our regular perception. And I'd say through intelligence we can see value. We can understand value. We can recognize its factual existence. That this quality, this manifestation, this sense of feeling, the feeling sense, the qualitative sense of conscious experience can be understood, can be seen with our intelligence to have value. It's not that complicated. And it just amazes me that, like I said, I think the default intelligence would see no reason to negate or deny personal experience. Again, I think a 5-year-old can understand that it matters whether it gets run over by a train or not. And you're saying it shouldn't matter. That somehow the 5-year-old's being fooled into thinking it doesn't matter whether it's screaming in pain or it's eating ice cream. That it's being foolish to think there's a difference. And yeah, I think we know who the fools are. And one of them is named Gary, but it's not this Gary. Fucktards. Nihilist, insane. You know, Nietzsche was insane. Fucktards. But really, you gotta come to the table with more than I say so, and that's all these assholes have. You know, this asshole with this video, if we still have it here. You know, this is the icon for it. Inmendham Kant philosophy. Anarchy cult. Flying pig is his icon. I don't know what that reference is. But, you know, this is the best he can make a video, and he's going to tell me what the truth is. This is the best he can do. Yeah, brilliant. Gary says that suffering is a negative, and because life is suffering, we should seek to end it. Well, I don't say life is suffering. I'm saying that life has suffering in it. What I'm saying is life is futilely purposeless, so it can't produce anything of real value to compensate for the negative value of the suffering. That there's just no gain to be made here. All you can do is clean up messes that shouldn't exist in the first place. And that's the problem. So you can't even get the argument right. You can't be fair to the argument. And yet I'm supposed to think that your emphatic statement of what the truth is here, I should take it to mean something to me. That somehow you're a credible stater of the truth. Suffering isn't a positive or negative, says you. Every bit of evidence I experience tells me it's quite obviously positive and negative. We came up with words like positive and negative to describe the very nature of our capacity to have a negative experience and a positive experience, to be attracted and to be repulsed. The very nature of our function of our consciousness is tied to every one of these words that have any value weight tied to them. And you're telling me that's a lie? No, I think you're just... I mean, you know, what? So says you. Suffering is it? Says you. It just is. Again, isn't that brilliant? It just is. I mean, that's like infantile. That's what like a 4-year-old would say. It just is, because they can't do better than that. You can't do better than it just is as an explanation. That's it. That's the extent of it. You're just going to say. The distinction, the obvious difference, to my perception, between hard suffering and hard pleasure, or satisfaction of desire anyway, is that obvious difference that I can see. Okay, you're going to say it doesn't exist, and you're going to say it doesn't exist because it doesn't exist. It just doesn't. That's all it just is crap is saying. You are trying to assign a value to something. I'm not trying to do it. Okay, I'm saying that logically I can see no way to escape the simple truth of it, that sentience creates value. And when you put a sentient thing on a planet, all of a sudden now the planet has interest. It's an interesting planet because now something of interest is vulnerable. To build a moral system, I don't care about any moral systems or ethical systems or any other kind of systems. The point is that I think the fact of the matter is there's going to be a truth. Either we're going to preposterously squander and waste suffering, or we're not. Those are our choices. And anti-life religion. Well, these are all your accusations. Okay, there's no evidence of dogma, so religion is a lie. So you're just a slanderer there. And anti-life, well, yeah, but do the rest of the context. Anti-consumption, reproduction, cannibalism, addiction. Anti-gladiator war. Anti-preposterous waste of suffering. Yes, I'm anti the preposterous waste of suffering to futilely satisfy the ego notions of imbeciles like yourself. Yes, I think you're an imbecile. Okay, driven by silly, trivial, girly man thinking. Okay, you're childlike, delusional ambition. Your egocentric DNA Borg mentality. Your complete cultural ownership. Culture has its dick all the way up your ass. All the way. I mean, you can see the head of culture's dick popping up and down inside your eyeballs. It's fucking you so hard. So yeah, fuck you. You're an idiot. An imbecile. An asshole. And a retard. And a liar. And a slanderer. Okay. Since values don't exist objectively, says this asshole, it is impossible to assign values to things, actions, or a group. Well, again, you say so. I say the value is in the nature. It's in its properties. It can't help but have value. All I have to do is create something that goes ouch in a real feeling way, and bingo, value is born. Just the truth of it. It can't be hidden. It can't deny itself. It can't say, I'm not really value. I'm not really valuable. I don't really matter. It can't do any of that. It can't negate the fact that it matters. It can't negate the fact that it is experiencing a qualitative state. So whatever. I mean, you people are just, well, like I said, you're nihilists because you're selfish motherfucking cunts. You don't want there to be a truth because then you'd have to be obedient to it. And that's all this is really about. You're just probably pedophiles. And you're looking for excuses to molest children. It's the only rational argument. You got a little pink pig with wings, so you're obviously preying on children, you sick motherfuckers. Disgusting. But really, what else? What other reason can there be for this evasion of something so fucking obvious? It's not good to hurt sensitive, feeling creatures. It's bad to hurt them. Bad. And these people who claim to be intelligent can't figure that out. Pitiful. Disgraceful. Disgusting. Reason in and of itself, really. It's just reason in and of itself for the human race to be squashed as just ground under the boot of the universe is just a really bad idea, that it can't even get this one right. The most precious thing in the universe, and it's, you'll chase after dollar bills and diamonds and gold, but it can't figure out that the welfare of a feeling thing matters. Yeah, that's called fail. Dismal fucking failure. Bravo.